to you with those numbers.
Okay. And while those students wait, can you give us a commitment that you are not going to collect that debt?
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that as to what the situation is. And
I don't understand how that's a difficult question to say yes to. They've been defrauded. They are waiting for relief. While they wait for their relief,
Well, if
they shouldn't have to pay back that debt.
well, if they've been defrauded and it's been adjudicated that they've been defrauded, then I will get back to you as to what the time frame is and why there's a holdup if there is.
I just watched Ilhan Omar go after Betsy DeVos in a committee hearing, and let me tell you, this was one of the most revealing exchanges I've seen in a long time. Omar tried to frame herself as the defender of students, but the entire thing came off as condescending, aggressive, and deeply ideological. Meanwhile, Betsy DeVos stayed composed while Omar tried to score political points. And the moment Omar brought up Trump University from years ago, that's when it became painfully obvious this wasn't about helping anyone. It was about attacking conservatives and faith-based schools.
The gentleman, I recognize now the gentlelady from Minnesota, Ms. Omar.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Madam Secretary, for being here with us. Is it fair to assume that you are aware that when a loan borrower is defrauded by a school, that there is a provision in law called the borrower defense?
Yes, I am.
Okay. It is a straightforward concept. A student should not be forced to repay loans to schools that lied to them. We know that millions of federal grants and loans go out the door while students are left with education that is not worthy. So I was actually surprised a few weeks ago when your department quietly rescinded $37 million fine that was placed against Grand Canyon University. Can you explain why that happened?
Let me think for a second. Let me review my notes on that because there were a couple of things I wanted to make sure I covered with you. We really found that the accusations against Grand Canyon, which is a faith-based organization, and we looked at all the facts of the case.
I am familiar with the university.
Really,
my question is, how are those students going to be made whole if you are not allowing the university to pay the fines? What's the plan?
I'm not sure that that's the right analysis of it, but I will look into it further and get back to you.
And you'll give me back a writing?
Yes, I will.
Writing? Okay. Because we know that, you know, the president in whom you serve had a fraudulent university called Trump University, and he himself settled 3 lawsuits before becoming president. We know that there are roughly 1.4 million borrowers who have been approved for a borrower defense discharge and are still waiting for that process. How are you clearing out that backlog?
In terms of the borrowed defense funds?
Uh-huh.
You know, there are lists of that. I'll be happy to get back to you with those numbers.
Okay. And while those students wait, can you give us a commitment that you are not going to collect that debt?
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that as to what the situation is. And
I don't understand how that's a difficult question to say yes to. They've been defrauded. They are waiting for relief. While they wait for their relief,
Well, if
they shouldn't have to pay back that debt.
well, if they've been defrauded and it's been adjudicated that they've been defrauded, then I will get back to you as to what the time frame is and why there's a holdup if there is.
Okay.
I'm not sure as I sit here right now.
Wonderful. There was, I know that you've been questioned a lot on IDEA and its funding. I won't re-litigate those questions. I just have 2 particular questions to address, or 2 areas to address. We know that the IDEA, that you have gotten rid of the legal team that guides the states in implementation. How are you going to rectify that?
I don't know what you mean by we've gotten rid of the legal team. We have had some reduction in force of
There was a
members.
firing of the entire legal team.
Well, we have other lawyers in place at the Department of Education, and we are
The
fully...
entire team that was for IDEA has been fired. So how are you addressing that?
Because we have other lawyers who are in place that can handle those things. And as I mentioned before, we have not missed any of our statutory requirements.
Well, I do believe that that firing hurts the implementation. We also know that you have gutted the Office of Civil Rights when there is already investigation backlog. How are you going to fix the discrimination claim cases that are out there?
Well, there are, excuse me, there are cases that we're looking into. And again, we have not missed any of our statutory requirements in terms of OCR. We also have a task force.
There is a backlog. There are a lot of
There is a backlog
There are a lot of
because we
kids in our schools that are waiting for relief. When you get rid of the people that are supposed to carry out those investigations, how are you to assure that those kids will not continue to be harmed? We are talking about so many situations in where kids are being discriminated against, and you got rid of the people that investigate those investigations so those kids can protect themselves from from discrimination.
Well, we still have a very strong and capable staff in OCR. At the
Then
Department
you
of
wouldn't have a
Education.
backlog if that was the case. There is a current backlog, and
Well,
I
excuse
would
me.
love for you to stop just saying words and to actually do the work that you are charged by statute, and I yield back.
So I'm sitting here watching this hearing, and Ilhan Omar starts her questioning with this tone like she's about to deliver some grand moral lesson. She asks Betsy DeVos whether she knows about borrower defense, the law that lets students get loan relief if they've been defrauded by a school. Okay, fair point to start with. But what happens next makes the real motive obvious. Omar immediately jumps to Grand Canyon University, a Christian school. And she doesn't just ask a question. She implies wrongdoing, corruption, dishonesty, and the usual smear. She pushes DeVos, demanding to know why a $37 million fine against the university was rescinded. No context, no nuance, just accusation. And here's where I notice the dynamic. DeVos tries to answer carefully, tries to clarify that the accusations didn't hold up. She says she'll follow up in writing. She stays composed. She stays professional. But that's not what Omar wanted. She didn't want answers. She wanted a political moment. She wanted a clip to circulate online. Then she suddenly drags in Trump University, a private business dispute from years before Trump ever even took office. Like magically everything comes back to Trump, even when talking about a Christian university in 2025. It's obsessive at this point. It's not policy, it's fixation. Then Omar starts talking about 1.44 million borrowers waiting for relief. Okay, where was this energy when Democrat-run universities pushed useless degrees, inflated tuition, and handed students mountains of debt they can't escape? Where is the accountability for public universities that churn out indoctrination instead of education? But instead of a real plan, Omar demands DeVos say, on the spot, that the government will stop collecting debts from every single borrower in that category, even before the cases are reviewed. She wants a policy dictate made live, in real time, on camera, under pressure, without legal review. That's not governance. That's grandstanding. And then comes the part that tells you everything. Omar accuses DeVos of firing civil rights lawyers and hurting kids. But she doesn't acknowledge the bloated bureaucracy that wastes money, drags cases out for years, and ignores due process. Omar wants government workers, especially ideological ones, to have permanent job protection, regardless of performance, accountability, or results. DeVos calmly replies that statutory obligations are being met. But Omar cuts her off, says she's just saying words, and ends by basically scolding her like a schoolteacher humiliating a student. It wasn't impressive. It was condescending. It was performance. And this right here is the difference in governing philosophies today. One side wants permanent bureaucracy, emotional outrage, public shaming, and ideology. The other side wants due process, accountability, and actual results. The exchange wasn't about students. It was about power and who controls education in this country, Washington elites or families, local schools, and institutions of faith. And watching Ilhan Omar attack a faith-based university while ignoring the corruption in the public university system tells you exactly where her priorities are. I'll end with this. You don't fix student debt by punishing Christian schools. You fix it by holding every school accountable, especially the ones charging $80,000 a year for useless degrees and political indoctrination. And that's exactly why the left hates Betsy DeVos.